someone signed up for public comment with just the first name of Gerald. If you could clarify, we need your full name and address. Thank you. And we're going to start in about 1 minute. Thanks.
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll? Thank you.
Alderman Lauer,
Here.
Alderman Sage,
Here.
Alderman Manuela.
Hard B's. Think of it that way. Below Ombwe.
It gets easy.
Here.
Alderman Burgess. Here. Alderman Painter. Alderman Schmidt.
Here.
Alderman Black.
Here.
Alderman Hallman. Here. Alderman Fruin.
Here.
Mayor Renner.
Here. Thank you very much. We're going to go ahead and start out with public comment. Our ordinance says that we have up to 15 minutes in public comment, and people can have up to 3 minutes. We do have quite a few people. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 individuals. And I would entertain, at least at this point, a motion to allow all to speak, but we would ask you if you're going to come forward to be as expeditious as possible. Is there a motion to suspend the rules to allow all 9 to speak?
So moved.
Moved by Alderwoman Howman. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Alderman Lauer. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, the motion does carry, would need a supermajority. And so I would ask you also to come forward. I'll read 3 names at once so we can handle this as quickly as possible. Mr. Gerald Johnson, then Patricia Martin, and Aaron Holliday. And again, I'm going to have to really keep you to 3 minutes according to our ordinance. Thank you. Gerald Johnson, please. Again, then Patricia Martin, then Aaron Holliday.
Good evening. My name is Brother G, and I'm from the Morning Buzz with Ian Bain on Cities 92.9. We're black, tall, white, short, man, and woman. We give you money to watch over our public streets and buildings. We do not give you money to build hotels. We do not want you to tell us how to live our life, tell us what to eat and drink, whether to smoke or not. As you try to silence Ian Bain's morning show, 92.9, just know this. I am new to you. There are many more like me. You cannot silence us all. Call us a Tea Party. We don't care. Call us racist. We don't care. 226 years of freedom will not be stopped by a restraining order. Mr. Mayor, your restraining order against Ian Bain's morning show is a restraining order against freedom. a restraining order against our Constitution, a restraining order against every one of us in this room that have access to information. This is Brother G from Cities 92.9. We'll talk to you in the morning. Thank you.
Okay, just to let everyone, the record know that we don't respond to people under normal circumstances, and let the record also show that Alderman Howman decided that she would leave if someone from city spoke, and if you'd let her come back in. Again, just to be clear, the only thing that a restraining order deals with is someone who's about eminently going to deal with a felony. So let's make it clear. Nobody is silenced by virtue of the fact that we have, unfortunately, a radio station that promotes itself every week shamelessly here. Okay, we're going to go ahead and go forward. Patricia Martin, would you come forward? And then Aaron Holliday. Thank you, Alderman Howman.
Thank you. I've spent some time during the past 2 weeks in Springfield attending legislative sessions at the Capitol for the first time in many years. And I found the experience most exhilarating and moving. Exhilarating because I got to see the fall in flames of the right to work bill in the House, accompanied by cheers and union songs. And moving because of contact with courageous families who are not afraid to talk about their personal tragedies, to promulgate legislation that will help others like themselves. At a public health committee meeting, for example, the family of a child disabled by a degenerative disease with the child present in a wheelchair successfully testified for the passing of a bill of pre-birth testing. A second testimony at the same meeting was related to work that I'm particularly interested in, issues regarding my own generation, when one of Lisa Madigan's assistant attorney generals testified as to the rights of families to place audiovisual equipment in nursing homes as monitoring and protective devices against possible abuse. And this bill, too, was passed. I have corresponded periodically during the last year with the assistant, Jessica O'Leary, and was very happy to meet her finally in person. In the same area, Senator Jason Barrickman of Bloomington proved to be the Senate sponsor of the amendment of an earlier criminal code House bill that outlines further penalties for financial and physical abuse of the elderly and the disabled. And this bill, too, passed. Actually, I just got a message in the mail saying that the Senate passed the bill unanimously. I got to see Senator Barrickman's office. It's very attractive and very tastefully furnished, and his staff is very helpful. I also got to meet other people who I found helpful, a group of doctors on the train back home who are advocating for issues regarding infancy, and they showed me how to look up the different pieces of legislation on the computer. So I'm going back to Springfield tomorrow to see what's happening during the last part of this week. For I'm beginning to gather information on legislation dealing with my generation and its needs, meeting senators and representatives and their staffs with similar concerns, and advocating for them as necessary. I'm obviously most grateful about what's being done here in Bloomington and McLean County, and I want to thank all of you for your support, especially Kevin and Scott, who've been with me from the beginning, and the mayor, and also Diana, as well as Bill Wasson and the county board and Chief Hefner and his law enforcement officers. For all of you are helping to make the lives of people like myself more secure in the sometimes fearful and unstable society that we live in. So thank you.
Thank you. Again, Aaron Holliday, and then Donna Boland, and then Lee Utzi. Sorry, Lee.
Good evening. I'm going to be really short. My name's Aaron. I own Checker Cab in Bloomington. We also do business as Yellow Cab in Bloomington. And then I have another business, Midstate Limo, that doesn't have anything to do with the taxi codes in Bloomington. But I just wanted to say thank you to Attorney Boyle and everyone else who was put their input in on the TNC ordinance that's being proposed. I talked to Alderman Lauer this afternoon. I'm in full support of it. And basically, I have the most to lose. I have more cars than anybody in this town as far as taxis. And honestly, I'm going broke by having so many cars because the flood of calls that we have are on the weekends. And last week, I made my monthly insurance payment of $7,350 for a month of cars. And most of the time, my cars are sitting in the parking lot because there's not a need. So when people say there's a need for taxis, there is Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, and periodically through the week when there's a concert in town or something like that. But for the most part, I'm in full support of this because I fully intend on having my own TNC. And I think that the big flash with Uber, a lot of the stuff is the technology. And the truth is I've had the technology. I have the technology now. I just sat over here and I Googled top taxi apps. They are Uber, Sidecar Lyft, which aren't even taxi cab companies supposedly, and then Curb, which is my app that I have that I subscribe to. So you can track the car. Soon you'll be able to see the picture of the driver. You'll know when the car's going to arrive, all that kind of stuff. So I wish Uber luck. In the big cities, they're tearing it up. But small town like Bloomington Normal, I don't think it's going to last. And I just thank everybody that had their input. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Again, Donna Bolin, and then Lee Utze, and then Alton Franklin.
I'm Donna Bolin. I live at 2702 Foxtrot Trail. I'm here to talk about the Tiger Grant and the Justice Law and Justice Building. For those that don't know, the Tiger Grant was created to employ people after the crisis, the 2008 crisis, and it was specifically for infrastructure. For 15 years, the Hamilton extension has been proposed and planned and worked on. And now at the 11th hour, that is being set aside to somehow connect the Tiger Grant with the Law and Justice Center. And personally, I don't understand how a Tiger Grant ties in with construction of a jail. The annual ridership for Connect Transit is less than 1% of the population. And even your professional advisor from Phoenix said that infrastructure was primary for recruiting businesses to Bloomington. And I'd like to read a very short thing from a 2009 meeting, city manager's discussion. David Hale, city manager, announced a joint meeting between the town of Normal and the city would be held Monday, June 29th, 2009. The council would discuss one voice in August 2009. The council would receive a map regarding the potholes repair program. The work would not continue through the summer. The city needed to continue street repairs. He discussed the revenue report and reviewed same. He recognized Tim Irvin's Director of Finance efforts. Revenue reports had been changed to better represent actual receipts. There could also be new monthly finance reports in the near future. That could be read today, in my opinion. And also, the idea of home rule, the citizens, I believe the citizens are the primary stakeholders. And I think that having the county influence what the city does goes contrary to the home rule. And finally, I'm kind of offended that citizens are viewed as being complacent. I think that instead they feel disenfranchised because they are not being heard. Thank you.
Lee Utze, and then Alton Franklin, and then Judy Stearns.
Hi. Thank you again. I'm Lee Utze. I'm owner of Magic Bus Shuttles. And I'm not going to repeat the same thing I said earlier, kind of clarify my thoughts a little bit more. I'm sure that Attorney George Boyle doesn't remember the email I sent. It was June 30th that I sent, and I've now sent it to the City Council, blmcity.org. You all have it. So the issue with if Uber moves forward, if we're going to be inundated with a lot of cars downtown, unsafe traffic patterns and whatnot, is a concern, and we're not meeting our needs right now with the way things have changed downtown. But my thing is that, I started as a cab driver in this town. I started as a funeral director, actually moved my way up to being a cab driver. And in the summertime, Aaron Halliday, bless his heart, can tell you that gas prices go up and ISU leaves. And it's the cab drivers who can't feed their families, not the companies. Cab drivers take the hit when you give a senior citizens discount. We pay for the gas, on and on. While Uber has surge pricing up to 7 times. When the need is greater, they just take it right off your card. 7 times the normal price right off the top. This is unfair advantages, and What I'm saying is I just think this is a little premature to vote them in yet without looking at it a little bit more. I think that cab drivers their rates being regulated as they are, and Uber, whether we go forward with them being legalized or they just drive as they please anyway, what they're doing right now, it's unfair for the cab drivers the way that their fares are regulated. I've listened to, the owners talk, and they can't get an ear of anybody in the city to get a bump in the increase in, fares when the gas goes up. And so it's a problem. I see Uber as being, an inevitability. I just would like to see maybe a little more thought before it goes forward. And if it's not regulated at all, then I guess that's another issue. But I do thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Thanks. Again, Alton Franklin, Judy Stearns, and then Elizabeth Gruber.
My name is Alton Franklin. I live at 508 Patterson Drive here in Bloomington. A couple of things. The first thing that caught my mind was all this business that's going on and what I consider to be an attempt to intimidate, restrict, and channel basically Saul Alinsky tactics, where we isolate, ridicule, and take all the steam away from folks. I'm quite disappointed that a council member felt the need to leave because a particular area was speaking. I am a fan. I am a friend. I love Cities 92.9. Ian Bain and Fist Bump are my friends. I think they have good things to say. I think they have good questions to ask. And quite frankly, if you're that scared, you don't belong up there. It costs nothing to listen to what somebody has to say. And every so often, I've been stunned by some of the folks who have given me some really pieces of wisdom, for lack of a better term. I'm appalled at the timing. We're going to try to shut down freedom of the press on the weekend, the day before the weekend, that my comrades in arms are commemorated for the sacrifice they gave defending that right. And that is just wrong. And you can try to laugh it off. You can try to push it off. You can try all the Saul Alinsky tactics you want to. I'm just like Brother G. I'm here. I'm here for the long haul. I've been here. Y'all know that. And I'm not going anywhere. And I'm going to rub your nose in reality. Budget task force is a joke. We've been going through various iterations of the same thing for years. I know. I've been here those years. And all it is hot air. Now we're talking about a Tiger grant. Oh, we're going to get $15 million. Yeah, and it's going to cost us $30 million. Money does not appear just because the people still have checks. It's not just the taxi drivers that go hungry. It's not just the companies that fold. There's a lot of negative repercussions that come from people who feel like they have a limitless ability to reach into the pockets to do what they want to do and not serve the needs of the city, not serve the needs of the beautiful citizens of this fair city. You're a joke. Thank you.
Judy Stearns, Elizabeth Gruber, and then last but not least, Ryan Whitehouse.
Thank you. Thank you. Yesterday, of course, was Memorial Day. And it's the day that we commemorate the fallen, those who gave the ultimate sacrifice. I think few of us could even imagine the heartbreak for parents, brothers, children, spouses, when there comes a knock at the door. There comes a chaplain. There comes two Marines in a dress uniform at the door. And the knock comes at the door, and they know. Few of us can even imagine that, but thousands of people have actually gone through it. And yesterday, it was a special day to remember. And what does that have to do with us? Well, it's very pivotal for the city council. You have the job of preserving the freedom that they died for. You have the job of making sure that they didn't die in vain. You have the job of making sure that when they throw the torch of freedom to you, that you don't break faith with those who died. That's your job. And when it comes to freedom, nothing is more dear, nothing is more sacred than freedom of speech and freedom of the press. Is it the press that we choose? Is it the press that we like? Is it the press that we designate? No, it isn't. No, it isn't. This is a day and age of blogs, of the internet, of so many sources of information, and so many people out there with the right to say what they will. And who is to say? I think it's up to the people to say. And it's up to those who would ask the questions, who would search for the truth. I think they are the real conservators of American freedom, and we all owe them that much respect, even if we firmly disagree with them. It has nothing to do with that, especially if we disagree with them. And I'd just like to close with a little quote. Press must be free. It has been so, and much evil corrected by it. If government feels itself annoyed by it, let it examine its own conduct, and it will find the cause. And that's Thomas Erskine, who was a lawyer and Lord Chancellor in England. I think you might want to rethink your response to the voice of opposition, which is the only real conservator of the freedom and the liberty that we have in this country. Before you shut down and before you go filing lawsuits for people asking questions. Thank you.
Just, Ms. Gruber, before you come, because many people have talked about this, let's make it clear we have someone who is an employee of the city who filed a restraining order because someone either got into or broke into a secured building and came to her door. Let's make that clear. So this has nothing to do with freedom of the press. It has to do with somebody has no right to stalk another human being. End of the point, I think. Ms. Gruber, go ahead. And then we have, last but not least, Ryan Whitehouse.
Elizabeth Gruber, 1313 Pinehurst. Just a short comment on this communication director controversy. I thought a communication director was supposed to communicate, and if they aren't up to the job, then maybe you hired the wrong person, because I don't believe they answered a lot of the questions that were asked originally. I have another question for the City Council. I was looking over some paperwork, and I happened to notice that a department head in the City of Bloomington received a salary for 1 year of $250,000. Now, is that true, or was that a mistake in your paperwork? Director of Human Resources, I believe it was. You can put that down. I think the taxpayers, if that's true, would like to have an explanation. I'm also concerned about this money that you're projecting, hopefully, to the Huff family for the Front and Center building. And basically, they also received money for the Ensenberger building from the city. That hasn't really panned out. As you know, it's still sitting there partially vacant. Nobody does follow-up on this money that is put out there. Look at what happened with the Castle Theater. I could go through several of these, and the city does not do a follow-up on that money. So I have to question, how are you going to follow up if you spend $8.2 million? And also, it appears that 4.8 of that would go to pay off the debt of the Huffs on those buildings, which are already distressed. There are other people that have buildings that should be demolished. They were forced to demolish them. I think if you remember Andy Coburn and Busick Bank. And so if they are forced to it, why is this person not forced to take care of his properties? So if that $4.8 million is to pay off their debt to SEFCU, I've got a question there. One more question I have, and that has to do with the Coliseum, and I hate to keep jumping around here, but since you keep hiring all these consultants, how about hiring a forensic auditor to go over the books for the Coliseum, look at Siam, how they violated the contract, and what they're actually doing with the funds for the Coliseum? That's money that would be well spent, it would benefit the taxpayers, and it would prove to the taxpayers that you know how to look after their money. So thank you for listening to me, and I'm sorry I had to go after Judy, who's so eloquent. Thank you.
Thank you. Ryan Whitehouse.
Good evening, Ryan Whitehouse, a citizen of Bloomington, and I have the honor of serving as a Bloomington appointee to Connect Transit, and I appreciate that opportunity and wanted to share that with you. I apologize that I was not at the work session. We had a board meeting ourselves tonight, so that's where I was, and I wanted to just talk about a few things and make sure you heard this. I know that Mr. Lawson and the staff had shared this, but as a board member, I wanted to share our support of this project, the Tiger Grant, to the project downtown with the county. And then the way I see this is a partnership with the city of Bloomington as well, and it would help revitalize the downtown area. So with that, I just wanted to also say this project really came from the initial thoughts of what the One Voice program was. A few of you in my press profession, I've been involved in the One Voice trips for a long time, and that was a project that really was, let's go together as a community, and I work in the government affairs profession right now. And our members of the Illinois delegation have always told us that they loved that this community came together as one voice to talk about projects that were important for the community as a whole. And talking about that and seeing a real example of that is when we were out there in Washington, D.C., we had projects and we all had a few things. But because of the snowstorm out in Washington, we really got the opportunity to talk to the county, and there was a connection there about how can we not go at this from different angles, but partner together to make our community better as a whole. And I think that was the original intent, and that really was the intent that day, and it worked out for the best. And as from a board member in Connect Transit, that's our hopes that everyone sees going forward, and I would ask you to support this project tonight in this resolution and try to help Connect Transit meet our mission and make the downtown area a better transfer point.
Thank you, Ryan. Thanks. Again, to clarify, we have mayoral open houses every Friday from 4:30 to 5:30 before a Monday city council meeting. If you really want answers, rather than to just make speeches, that's the place to come. We can get you answers. You want to look straight across the table. We all sit over there. We have respectful discussions. We get answers. We get information. We get stuff done. Again, just one more clarification. What we had here had absolutely nothing to do with freedom of the press. Anybody who wants anything, come talk to me. Come to the open house. We'll get you the information. This has to do with people trying to get a gotcha moment. Nobody who's hired by our city has a right to be stalked by someone pretending to be a journalist. Period. You can't make a good situation out of that, no matter what hyperbole you use. I'm sorry, but that's the reality. I wouldn't be a decent mayor if I let this kind of stuff happen, and I won't. So we're going to move on to our consent agenda. Is there any items that anyone wants to pull from the consent agenda? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's right. We have some of the appointments on the consent agenda, but I do want to make sure that there are people here. John Conklin to the Scott Healthcare Investment Committee. Are you here? Please stand. Arthur Haynes to the Bloomington Housing Authority. Julian Westerhout, I do see, to the Library Board of Trustees. And John Bowman to Public Transit Board. Thank you very much. Now, are there any items from the consent agenda that anyone wants to pull before I ask for a motion?
7G.
Pardon me, 7G?
J.
I'm sorry,
J.
as in Jester.
John.
Okay.
James.
7J.
Jill.
Okay. Anything else? Alderman, well, actually, if I can get a motion on the floor.
I'll make a motion to approve consent with the exception of 7J.
Moved by Alderman Schmidt, second.
Second.
Second by Alderman Scott Black. Jim?
Yes, Mayor. With regard to the consent and regular agenda, I have not received any monies or financial benefits from any of the individuals or organizations referenced in these specific agenda items. Thank you.
Thank you so much. At this point, actually, we can do the voice vote right on this. We'll have been doing that. Let's just go ahead. I've got to vote aye. Press the button as opposed to voice vote. Thank you. The motion carries 8-0. Thank you very much. No nays to announce, Madam Clerk. And now we move to item 7J, Alderman Milawambwe.
I'll recuse myself since it involves ISU.
Oh, I see. That's right. I'm sorry. You did send me that notice. Okay. Alderman Sage?
I would move for passage of item 7J.
Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Alderwoman Schmidt. And any further discussion? If not, please go ahead and vote. The motion carries 7-0. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. Thank you.
Did the door actually even close?
Yeah, it may not have even closed behind him. Okay. We're going to move right along to item 8A, an ordinance amending Chapter 40 of the Bloomington City Code to establish regulations for transportation network providers to operate transportation networks with the city. Again, at least for, I'm sure there's going to be additional discussion. We have an additional presentation, I believe. Is that right, or is that inaccurate? There's an additional one. Okay. Well, is there a motion to approve? And then obviously we'll begin discussion.
I'll make a motion we approve as presented.
Moved by Alderman Black. Is there a second to item 8A? Alderwoman Burgess. Okay, is there a second? Any discussion? No discussion. Okay. An aye vote is in favor, a nay vote is opposed. Okay, the motion carries 8-0. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. And just for everyone to clarify, this is for up to 1 year. We are not required within a year we need to come back to see this, but we could revisit it at any time if circumstances suggest.
Yeah, thanks. I think it's important to note that while there was no discussion during this meeting, we did have a special work session where there was some spirited
Right.
discussion, so I would encourage folks to check that out online.
Right. We don't have meetings quite as quick as the county board does. Right.
Yes, exactly. We just know.
Move to item 8B, an ordinance amending the Bloomington City Code allowing taxi cab companies to be licensed under the same provisions as the transportation network providers. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Moved by Alderwoman Schmidt. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderwoman Howman. Any discussion on this? Again, in the work session, it was clear we were going to give existing taxi cab companies the option of keeping the current set of rules or by going to the set of rules that would govern Uber and other companies like that.
Mayor,
I'm sorry.
I just want to express, I think all of us would like to hear from those private companies, how they're doing economically, what these changes are doing on a month-to-month or maybe even a weekly basis. I know I will be hearing from my constituent, and I am very concerned about the economics and any loss of competitive advantage, et cetera, that this might cause. And so I've got my ear to the rail. I want you guys to correspond with us. I'm listening. Thanks.
I suspect if there are difficulties in the competitive situation, I suspect we will hear. And sooner rather than later, Mr. Yutzi, as I say, you're also, as everyone is invited to a mayoral open house, and we'll try to get you answers as quickly as possible. Okay, at this point, an aye vote is in favor. Nay vote would be opposed. The motion carries 8-0. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. Excuse me. All right. And we move right along to item 8C, resolution in support of Tiger 2015 discretionary grant from the U.S. Department of Transportation. And actually, I've got, mine is the old version.
Mayor, if you want, I can address that amendment. The addendum to the council agenda calls for seeking council support for resolution supporting the Connect Transit and McLean County Tiger 2015 grant application and directing staff not to submit an application for the Hamilton Road Bund to Commerce Connection project. So that is the recommendation tonight, and we do have a resolution that's been provided in the addendum. We'd be happy to respond to any questions council might have on that resolution.
Just to clarify, if I might, a little bit of the backdrop of some of the circumstances of the latter part of last week. The Hamilton Road extension is obviously very, very critical in many ways, right? In fact, the day that I announced for mayor 3 years ago, I talked about that as a critical, improvement. You'd be able to go from corporate south to the interstates without ever going on Veterans, and you'd be on a 4-lane highway. So it's certainly important. The reality here was we had, as a community, decided that we would support the One Voice efforts on mental health, Connect Transit, and it was also quite clear that if we, it wasn't unanimous, but the balance, I think we had one consultant in Washington who differed, but basically it seemed if we were to also go for the Hamilton Road extension, the probability of getting a Tiger grant for the downtown facility would be nil. One would feed off each other. How can you really say that this is critical if you're also trying to compete with yourself? And I did receive several phone calls to this effect. I made a couple inquiries myself. I had someone, senior staff member from Senator Durbin's office, call to confirm that, actually a couple times to confirm that as we move forward. So that was part of the political backdrop of what happened here. We're certainly not giving up on Hamilton Road. It's very, very important to us. And we certainly have, the county realizes that that's the case as we move forward. We're willing to support us in the next round. So at this point, is there either a motion, if we have a motion on the floor so we can at least begin question and answer for the discussion? Okay. Sorry.
I'll put the motion on the floor.
Motion to approve the resolution supporting the Tiger grant for Connect Transit in the facility. Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Alderman Milwampwe. All right. Further discussion and comments. Alderman Black, and then Sage, and Milwampwe.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. And this is another one where we had a spirited discussion during the work session, which I encourage people to check out on YouTube prior to this point. I guess, in Ward 7, I've got no complaints about the Hamilton Road at all, mostly because the folks don't, it's not convenient for them to go that way. Where would the Hamilton project be at this point in time? Just kind of floating out there? Or?
Well, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Hales, but basically it's not like it's shovel ready either, but Mr. Hales.
Yeah, first off, as far as the Tiger, we're in the 7th round of Tiger grants. It will be subject to further federal appropriation as to whether or not there will be a Tiger 7 round. It's not guaranteed. However, the Congress has been funding some of these additional, Tiger rounds. When we submitted last year, we did get a recommended status from the USDOT staff. We did not, however, get I think it's strongly recommended, or I think it's highly recommended, which is the second phase.
Right, I saw that, yeah.
And certainly one thing that hurts any kind of project that is not shovel-ready, and that is a critical factor nowadays. They want to know that your project's ready to go. Normal is a great example. They had the building plans approved. They were ready to go into one of the first Tiger projects in round 1 that got underway. What we're recommending is during this next year, we continue very aggressively with the council support to complete further engineering studies and analysis, get a final agreement with Norfolk Southern Railroad, which is critical for the relocation of some of the siding. Be able to get the ICC with Norfolk Southern Railroad support for an at-grade crossing, move ahead with land acquisition, final engineering plans, and the more we can get that done, say even in the next 12 months, we'll be even in a stronger position if there is a Tiger 8 round of funding. So we certainly, with your support, want to continue a very aggressive timeline for this Hamilton Bund of Commerce project.
Okay. Thank you. So I guess I'll just pontificate for a moment here. It sounds like this is done by bureaucrats in D.C. at the Department of Transportation that determine these ratings, correct? It's not elected officials anymore. They've taken that kind of...
Certainly we like to always refer to bureaucrats in the positive sense,
yes,
since you're looking at one,
yes.
and you employ a lot
Public
of...
servants, yes.
When we were on One Voice, we met with these wonderful gentlemen professionals.
Yes, I'm sure.
Men and women. So,
Yeah.
I do want to point out that, there is the more technical review, 2 phases of that. But then finally, there is a political decision that is finally made by the Secretary of DOT and others And unfortunately, there is so much in the way of requests that are made.
I'm sure.
Once they even get to the third and final phase, your chances of getting funding is still very slim just because of the amount of requests, and that's always kind of an unknown as what's that final criteria when the final decision is made on all the highly recommended projects, and we just don't know.
I'm
They
just
don't
reminded-
disclose that.
Yes, yes. I'm just reminded of when Leslie Knope went to Washington, D.C. with her parks project that just went into a big bin where it was going to be reviewed at some point in an indeterminate time. And, yeah, it's unfortunate that that has to be the case, and I know that they do a lot of hard work over there, but, this is where we don't want bridges to nowhere with earmarks, but it'd be nice to have some folks that understand the political ramifications of where we put our roads and how we use our resources as opposed to this kind of rating system. Just from my perspective, again, I have not received any kind of feedback regarding people looking for an extension of Hamilton Road in my ward. I mean, I don't think a single email has come my way, but I have received many emails about extended service for Connect Transit, and people want to see that more frequently and more hours. So, I guess, is that how it's tied to the Tiger Grant, is because of Connect Transit's involvement?
Well, one thing I do want to point out is, as we tried to say in our backup material, the final extension connection of Hamilton Bund to Commerce is also a public safety concern.
Right.
Right now, we have thousands of cars every day that are taken off a new urban, 4 to 5 lane road onto a 2-lane rural road. And those
Yeah.
commuters every day their safety or risk factor is greater because we're having to move them over to rural roads that are not designed for that amount of traffic. So from an employment, job creation, getting people from their home by multiple means, road, Constitution Trail, et cetera, to a place of employment, there is a lot of benefits of this project that are consistent with what the Tiger Grant applications is, for. So certainly we're trying to build that case, but it's just a matter of time that crashes and who knows, possible injuries will continue to escalate because we don't have a safe connection or that donut hole that hasn't been completed. So there is that public safety aspect that will be significantly improved once this last segment is completed.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And just on that note, when we were, Jim, were you in the transportation, the DOT? We had half the one voice group at DOT, Department of Transportation, where the people just underneath Secretary Fox, talked to us about what the criteria were, and even if they were the same, it might even be apples and oranges in terms of the two different projects, the one in our downtown fits the criteria a lot more because it's not just how it helps your transportation and public safety, it's disadvantaged populations and others that are assisted you get extra points for in the rating. Now, they also started the conversation in a not very helpful way by saying, you're more likely to get into Harvard than you are to get a Tiger Grant. But at the very least, we do know that we at least have a probable shot at this, and if we were to have two competing proposals, one might very well cannibalize the other. But let's see. Alderwoman, let me just go from Schmidt, Sage, Lauer, and Fruin.
So just to reiterate then, because I wanted to follow up on Scott's question, this qualifies for Tiger both because of the transit as well as the population that's being served.
There are many different pieces. That's just an additional
Right,
thing.
but it's
Obviously,
not purely transportation.
Well, the way that, it's a transfer, it's a DOT grant.
Right.
It's just as they walked us through it, they said stronger proposals are those that are multimodal for the future, that link cars to bikes to rail or foot, whatever. And then we certainly have that. We might be able to make some argument like that with Hamilton Road, but disadvantaged populations, and clearly this one would, its proximity to disadvantaged populations of people who use the facility, that we'd get extra points, if you will, because of that. Whereas Hamilton Road, I can, make an indirect causality argument as I would to Scott's constituents who don't talk about the Hamilton Road extension. I say, then how about the times you're stuck on Veterans and you don't like it because it takes you too long, right? If we reduce the traffic on Veterans by 25% at peak times, we will all benefit as a community. But in terms of the scoring at DOT, I don't think there's any question, but that if we've got any shot, it's the one that's Connect Transit.
Okay, and it's not the mental health facility component of this?
I'm sure that helps. I'm sure that helps the process. I mean, we don't want to maybe go into perhaps the details of it, but if we wanted to talk to Ryan or others about this, or Bill Wasson, but I'm sure that helps. The immediate proposal, as we described it, was one that would immediately help people who come to the courthouse, who commute, and it is the busiest facility. Am I correct? It's the second busiest stop in our mass transit network.
I certainly see the point about the transit. I just, thinking about the mental health facility component of this, I also see enormous benefits to this community, to Bloomington itself. We're all part of the same community, and we all struggle with the same challenges, and it's helping all of our policing operations. I was just trying to, I'm trying to understand the Tiger component of it and weigh the two. So this is helpful. Thank you.
Oh, sure. Thank you. Let's see. Sage, Lauer, and Furlan.
Yeah, maybe just to follow up on the direction that Karen was going. For me, part of the conversation, and this has been a few years ago, so I'm going back into long-term memory, but and maybe the Chief Hefner can help us out, but I seem to recall that like maybe 2/3 or 3/4 of our police calls are mental health related. I mean, it is some staggering percentage. And so, I mean, there is, I think, some benefit to the city proper if we can begin to address that. And I don't know that the new facility, and I'm going to support the motion, I don't know that the new facility is going to be, kind of a cure-all and an end-all. But it's clear it's going to have to be a collaborative effort between the city, the town, and the county on managing these issues. And my hope is that one of the benefits we gain from that is perhaps a lessening or a decrease in the number of calls that Bloomington police officers have to make. If we're able to bring, again, a more cohesive, collaborative approach to it across, all the local units of government. So it's a huge percentage, though. That much I do remember. So thanks.
Alderman Lauer?
Well, I don't think, and I'm sure that I hear from most of my constituents in that area, I don't think that this is either one of these projects is a negative by any stretch of the imagination. I spent a fair amount of time with actually our current sheriff and the fellow that ran against him last election on this particular issue. That being said, I'm not sure that it has the economic impact that the Hamilton Bund extension actually has. We're talking about our major employer for our area, which is it dwarfs most of the rest of the employment in our area, and getting those folks back and forth to one of their, well, actually several of their facilities. We do have a number of transportation issues and safety issues that would solve, and one of those is near and dear to my heart with Bun and Lincoln. We've got growing pains because of this. We've needed it. It's been well over a decade and a half now. I'm afraid that coupling these two together is going to detract from our main emphasis, completing that very, very important infrastructure project. That's just my concern. Thanks.
Okay. Alderman Furlan.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be very short. I support the Connect Transit proposal, and I want to make sure we don't lose sight of the Hamilton Road work that's already been done. I think it's documented in here that's been ongoing for several years. Jim, I don't know if I'd put you on the spot, but you know what percentage of Hamilton Road is complete at this point? Half of it or more? 2/3 probably, or 75%, whatever that number is.
It's all but that one little piece, right? I mean,
7.2 mile stretch from Fox Creek subdivision over to the east campus where it ends of State Farm. And the issue is you've got one gap of 1,000 foot of road that is missing. And so it's projected to have 15,000 vehicles a day when it's completed and handled be the major southern east-west arterial road for Bloomington.
Yeah, thank you. So this has been through prior mayors, it's been through Stockton, it's been through Markowitz, it's been through 15 or more city council members. A lot of work has been done. And this isn't about State Farm, it's not about wards. It's about an east-west arterial that's very important to the economic growth and development of our community. So I'm supportive of the action that we're going to take here in a second, but this is still a very critical piece that, along with everything else, is a high priority for us. So not sure where the council is going to put it, but we've been at this a long time, and I hope we can find some way to get this done.
Absolutely. Thank you. Anything else? Okay, at this point then, aye, of course, is supportive of this resolution. No would be in opposition. The motion carries 8-0. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. Okay. Whoops, excuse me. And then we move now to item 8E, and it's consideration of intergovernmental agreement between Illinois State University, Illinois State Department of Transportation, sorry. And is there before we begin the presentation, is there a motion to approve and a second? Oh, okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve as presented.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderwoman Schmidt. Mr. Karch and Mr. Hales, you want to give us some background information then?
Yes, thank you. First, just a couple of quick comments, and I'll turn it over to Jim. But one, we're from a planning standpoint, we want to make sure we're bringing to the council every year in the springtime, and next year it'll be more in the March and April time period, the revised 5-year transportation improvement plan and any changes staff is recommending to our 5-year list of street projects and other transportation projects. It is critical that we make sure that the council's supportive of this 5-year list, and sometimes even the projects that are going to be on this list may not necessarily be fully funded, but by the mere fact that they are on the list helps open the doors for opportunities for either federal and state funding. So that is, I think, a key reason for putting sometimes a few more projects on this list than maybe what we actually have funding for. In fact, in this particular case, the one thing did want to make sure staff did do on this list that is being drafted is the work on the Hamilton Road Bund to Commerce. That was kind of a revision. We've also added Lafayette Street, the Main to Maple, the Ash Street, major feasibility study, which we've both discussed with Alderman Lauer and many of the businesses down there. This is a heavily traveled road, almost a lot of existing development, but it's still one of these old rural 2-lane sections, which just is inadequate to serve the current volume of traffic down there and the great investments that many of the businesses have done. So we did add a few more projects like that to get on the list. There could have been some others, but we did want to make some of these last revisions to ensure that, again, by having these on the list, we could also continue to lobby for, advocate for, try and seek whatever additional funding we can, both from federal and state levels. With that, let me turn to Jim, and if you just kind of want to get into specifics of any other changes or projects on this 5-year plan. Jim Karch.
Thank you, City Manager Hales. Mayor and City Council, we will try to be brief but specific on this plan. As the City Manager laid out, this is a transportation improvement plan. It is something the city has been doing for a long time. It is intended to reflect our intentions as opposed to driving them. You, the council, drive the intentions of our capital projects through the budgets that you pass on our long-term capital plans. So what this is, and as you look on the screen, this is a conglomeration of a lot of different stakeholders. There's a lot of great acronyms. Everybody loves acronyms. These are a bunch of acronyms. They all come together for an over 100-page document that is put together by McLean County Regional Planning. They are the chair of the local metropolitan planning organization. They are the people who chair this, and they put all of this together. So that's kind of the high-level view of it. Now, if we dive in specifically to Bloomington, even that, we can be very specific, short, and brief, and say, for that 5-year plan, we have 3 streets, to bridges, for intersections, and overall citywide work. Again, you drive this. Every year you make the changes accordingly. We try to map out, as the city manager said, where we could go with this. So as we look into a specific map, where across the city are we looking? You know, we're looking on all different facets of the city, even including, if you look at the bottom, the citywide portions of resurfacing, sidewalks, pavement preservation, all of that plays into it. So this even includes some of the maintenance dollars that we put toward our infrastructure improvements. So some of the specific projects, I'll try to go through them quickly, but you have all of this in your packet. Hamilton Road got a lot of attention tonight. That is a key project for us. We are going to be this next year looking to drive that project forward with really some phase one work. What that means is we need a decision from the railroad. We're looking at grade or overpass. That's the critical juncture. Until you have a decision on whether it's at grade or an overpass, that's what everything is hinging upon to get that started. So once we have that, then we can start doing more of the design work, more of the work that's needed to drive that forward and get it shovel ready. Lafayette Street has been one that we've talked about for a length of time. What we look at there is a feasibility study to say, what would this look like? What kind of costs are there? So it's that first step, and that positions us long-term for other grants and federal dollars. So in addition, we have upcoming the Fox Creek Road Bridge. This is another one that we've talked about for a long time, that we're looking to get some additional federal money from a grade crossing protection fund in partnership with the Illinois Commerce Commission. So these are some very good partnership dollars that helps save city dollars. Again, that's up and coming, has been improved. Linden Street, we just brought to the council a discussion of what that looks like. What will that be whenever we get done with it? So that one we just brought to you. Then we do have a number of different traffic signals, and some of these are in partnership with the town of Normal, with Towanda and Vernon, but then also ones we've been talking about that with GE, Keaton, but then also Hershey Road, Arrowhead, and Clearwater. So those are projects you're familiar with. And then last but not least, all of the different citywide dollars that we spend on an annual basis that we bring to you. Our local motor fuel tax that we thankfully have that allows us to do some resurfacing this year, including some of our sidewalk work that we are working through with our sidewalk master plan and the pavement preservation. So all of those things play into this. Again, this plan kind of represents it. It's a good thing to bring before you. We are going to be doing more of that annually, so just so you can have a capture and get a feel for kind of what's coming in the out years. And this will also play a key part as we continue to move forward with this 20-year capital improvement plan. This will tie into that as well. Okay, so with that being said, City Manager, do you have any additional comments?
Just one other final comment, and that is this 5-year plan is subject to change. You may recall that right now we're having Hanson Engineering do some work on a number of large street projects, trying to help us put together a master street plan that would be based on more objective criteria that they are looking at. And I think that open house we had several months ago, what do we have, about 20 large projects. So once that's completed, that's brought back to you. I see that this fall we'll probably be having another discussion is the results of that master plan. Does that change any of these priorities? So, I do see that that's a significant input of information to be considered once that's complete. And do you have an update when we might be seeing?
They are looking to finalize that data. We should be getting that this summer, so we'll be bringing back an update to the council on that.
Okay. And that's all we have. Be happy to answer any other questions. We are seeking City Council support for that TIP as presented.
Okay. Alderman Fruin?
Just a comment, this is kind of a double-edged sword, but I agree with everything we're doing, master planning, feasibility studies, right away, everything. I think there's a little caution too that, obviously we're not going to be able to bite all these off, and occasionally in the past we've seen sometimes where we've had to redo some engineering studies because an intersection, something changed and so forth and so on. And I hate to get too far ahead of our master planning when we know we can't accomplish all that. And it's kind of a double-edged sword, but does that make sense, what I'm trying to spit out?
Definitely like to see some things starting to get built, Alderman Fruin. Thank you. Yes, that's right. That's a good thing. Yes, very much.
So I don't want to waste our engineering feasibility studies. Thanks.
Okay. Other questions, comments? Alderman Lauer.
Just to throw something out there, kind of a follow-on, Jim. do we have anything? Is there a fly on the wall here in terms of what we do expect 5, 6, 7 years down the road, where we actually have a shovel-ready project and we can get started on some of these? Is there a plan for that, David? Have you got anything, just even shirt cuff?
Well, one, I think that's critical that we do have one or more of those shovel-ready projects. I think that has hurt us a lot in the past. It's just like Tiger, for the first 6 rounds. I don't think we submitted a single Tiger grant application. But if we would have had Hamilton Bund of Commerce or had Lafayette, ready to go, those could have been projects. So if anything, I think in hindsight, looking back, we probably haven't been as aggressive as a city, aggressively moving these projects along. I think even that Hamilton Bund of Commerce, there was a point in time when we could have probably have had an agreement with Norfolk Southern, but unfortunately, too many promises were made. We were over-promising all these street projects, and there just never was enough funding. And each year, it was a small portion of actual projects. So we're hoping to correct that by having a much more meaningful, accurate, financially justifiable capital improvement program, knowing that we've got to maintain flexibility because sometimes those needs can change, over several years has been mentioned. So
In
hopefully
addition
that
to
helps.
what the city manager is saying, if you look up on the screen, really Fox Creek Road is a great example of a project that was shovel-ready. We did advocate for that project with the Illinois Commerce Commission and the railroad. We were able to acquire some additional funding. So, that type of planning is very beneficial, and because of that, we're able to leverage some federal dollars that are available through the safety crossing grants. So it's a good win.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? All right, then aye vote is in favor, nay would be opposed. Okay, has everybody voted who wanted to? Okay. There are, Alderman Black? Okay, you did now. Okay. The motion carries 8-0. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. Mr. Hales, City Manager's comments?
Actually, just one more item. We have an intergovernmental agreement with IDOT.
I really have the really old one.
Yeah, I actually think what happened was we just had an informational presentation, but we had made a motion on 18.
On the intergovernmental.
Yeah,
okay, I jumped over that.
I think, yeah.
Okay.
And this can be a very brief item. We did want to make sure the council, we are recommending tonight that the council approve the City of Bloomington entering into a 10-year intergovernmental agreement with Illinois DOT, and that is which would allow the city to receive $95,000 and some change annually from DOT for city crews and city equipment and resources being used to maintain DOT streets, some DOT streets in the city limits. A couple of points I wanted to make tonight is that unfortunately we are committed to doing a better job going forward, collecting information on how much it really is costing us to maintain these DOT streets. As we do so, what we then want to do is utilize that type data, which we really haven't had in the past, to approach DOT and seek additional funding. The subjective opinion of city staff right now is we probably spend more each year than $95,000 in maintaining these streets. But without that concrete, detailed, information, it is difficult for us to go and make a case for increased funding. Now, however, the city of Bloomington is just like many, many other cities throughout the state. We're all in the same boat in that DOT kind of sets the reimbursement price, and generally that is based on their calculations without much consideration for trying to have a true, accurate, reimbursable. It is a 10-year agreement. We do have the option to kind of back out. I'm not saying we would want to, but again, what our priority is going to be is to track our costs as accurately as we can, and then in this next year, approach them to see what would it take to get more fully reimbursed for all our costs of maintaining these DOT streets in the city that are the subject of this agreement. So that's what we're going to pursue. But in the meantime, because of the pending expiration of the initial 10-year, we're recommending that this be approved by the City Council. Be happy to answer any questions, either Jim Karch or myself, on this intergovernmental agreement.
Alderwoman Schmidt.
Excuse me a second, Mr. Hales, Jim Karch had to go to another commitment right now, so the city engineer.
Okay.
Swapping out here.
Okay. Alderwoman Schmidt.
I just wondered, with our agreement with IDOT, how much flexibility do we have in terms of either street maintenance, or I'm looking at the map, for example, right now, and I know we continue talking about the downtown buckle and what that ought to be, and, you know, or should there be road diets and all kinds of things like that. Do we have, what is our relationship with IDOT in terms of developing our vision of our streets in our community as opposed to the IDOT big vision?
Let's have Kevin Cothey, the city engineer, respond to that.
Sorry.
Kevin.
This is more of just a maintenance agreement that addresses maintaining the street. The thing that you're talking about, Alderman Schmidt, is more of a planning process that, we had the Main Street feasibility study a few years ago, and that involved, IDOT was one of the primary stakeholders involved, along with Bloomington Normal, and, a lot of different entities provided input into that. So that vision for what the street could be someday is kind of handled in some other documents. This document really relates just to the maintenance right, so it doesn't relate to that necessarily. Mm-hmm.
Could I also mention that we haven't done this very good job in the past, but going forward, what we'd like to do is at least annually or every other year, bring some of our IDOT officials out of District 5 and others and come and have a short workshop with the City Council. I think that's always beneficial. We are a very sizable, urban population in the district, and I think those kind of topics would be very good to kind of put on kind of an annual list to talk about. It's also just some of these DOT projects that the council passed a resolution supporting in their, 6-year planning program. So we'll be looking at opportunities to bring those officials for a joint work session with the City Council this next year.
Okay. Other questions? Okay, then would there be a motion then to approve this intergovernmental agreement?
Make that motion.
Moved by Alderwoman Schmidt. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Milwampwe. Further discussion? Seeing none, vote for would be obviously in favor of the motion. Okay, thanks. The motion carries 8-0. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. Okay. And now, excuse me. There we go. Mr. Hales, any city manager's discussion?
Nothing on my report, just a reminder that upon adjournment, we are requesting the council to go into an executive session for the purposes as indicated in our executive session that was modified to be at the end of tonight's regular meeting as opposed to earlier in the evening. So.
Great, thank you very much. And first of all, I'd just like to say welcome back, Mr. Hales. Glad to have you back. And we, just as FYI to the public and everyone else, as of Friday, we did get from Jeff Gablehouse a downtown Bloomington development plan and several different options, and where the revenue projections, where money's coming from presumably many different places. On the surface of it, it looks like there's more than enough to pay for a bond, but obviously we've got to vet that and make sure that those numbers are even in the ballpark. So that's just FYI. I want to thank Alderman Sage for his leadership in getting the organization of the budget task force together, and also Alderwoman Burgess and Alderman Black for serving on that. Other than that, I don't have anything. Alderman Fruin.
Just very quickly, I hope this is not inappropriate, but I hope you understand that all of us express our sympathy in the loss of your father.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that very much. Thanks. Thanks. Okay, I guess, I'm sorry, Alderman Lauer.
I just want to reiterate Memorial Day, and again, spent a fair amount of time at 3 different services, one of which was Evergreen Cemetery, and it was very, very nice. 3 different 21 gun salutes, so that was impressive. I think it's important for us to reflect on the fact that we are not only losing the greatest generation, but we're also now losing many of those that served in Vietnam as well, and early at times. So it's just a footnote and something that I think is very, very important. There's a number of citizens that were involved that are members of our community and that frequent our streets and amenities, et cetera. So a thought goes out to them. Thanks.
Thank you. Right. Alderman Black.
Yes, thank you. And I'll be brief too. I know that there's been an email that was floating around regarding aggregated energy, electricity, and I know that I was going to touch base with Steve today, but we didn't have a chance, which is my fault. I think that'll be information that'll be very valuable to the council as time goes on, just so we're all on the same page about what that looks like.
And what it means to go green and whatever. Because we did have a policy decision 2 years ago to go green, and somehow we're not, but we'll...
Yeah, I had received some concern from a number of citizens regarding it, and I think it's important that we get the facts on the table. I know that we're limited in what we can and can't do, but we want to make sure that we do everything we can to follow through on the commitment we originally had in place. Additionally, this is something that's kind of been on my mind. I know that we've talked individually about this, but it may be time for us, even though we just did it, take a look at our public comment rules. I know that we've had some issues with some of the folks that come out here that are specifically advertising for a business, which I think is distasteful and shameful. And I think that we should probably have a discussion about what that looks like, because this is our public sphere and this isn't a place for advertisement.
And again, just people can, if they want answers, if they come to the mayoral open house, we can get it for them, and often in real time. David or Steve Rasmussen sometimes are on before the session finishes. They're able to get answers to people. So if you really want answers, you want to know what's going on, that's the place to do it. And sit across from people and listen to their contrary perspectives. And sometimes we come to consensus, sometimes not. But
which is healthy for democracy.
That's what I would think. Yeah. Anyway, at this point, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. But again, remember, we do need to go into executive session, so we're going to go back into the fishbowl.
Is this a motion to adjourn to executive session?
I'm sorry. No, at this point, we just adjourn this meeting, and then we'll reconvene. So, moved by Alderwoman Schmidt. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderwoman Howman. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. We're adjourned. Thank you.